Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's special webinar series, part of the NYAPT Transfinder Best Practices Navigating Uncharted Territory webinar series. We're going to give people about 30 seconds to file in, and then we'll be back shortly. All right, we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to just jump right in. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rick DeRico. I am the Director of Public Relations at Transfinder. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to today's special webinar. We have really a great turnout today. I think we have a hot topic, very challenging topic, dealing with the driver shortage. It touches, it seems like, almost every school district across the country. We have a great panel lined up for you today that are going to share their stories, what's worked for them, what some of the things that maybe haven't worked for them. And we are also looking for your input as well. This is very much a two-way conversation, so we want you to jump in as well. Before we get started, I'm going to ask Transfinder's President and CEO, Antonio Cervone, to give us a few words of wisdom and to kick off today's session. Tony.
Wow. Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday.
Sorry, Tony.
I like that, like wisdom. So, yeah, I think I could. I don't know if I could give wisdom to a lot. I think I learned a lot from all of you guys, but a lot going on. Can you believe it? A couple more days, it'd be August. Summer's flying. I got to tell you, I know this is a huge topic. Of course, Rick, you mentioned this is really about the school bus driver shortage. And I tell you, that's probably why I think we have like a record amount of people right now joining this webinar. So I'm happy to see that. But I tell you, all I know is as you drive around, I see these school buses parked strategically with a big, we're hiring. I'm sure you guys are doing this, and if not, what a good idea. Park it strategically. Please not on people's lawn. They might not like that, especially those tired tracks, but it makes sense. I see that almost every school that I drive by here in my school district, big sign, school bus, hiring now, like, holy cow, I see it everywhere. So that makes a lot of sense. So we'll hear more good ideas that people are doing, how to actually talk about how do we hire some people. But before I hand it over to Dave Christopher, I want to again thank NYAPT about really we received an awesome award during NYAPT trade show and conference, annual conference. We received the New York Association for Pupil Transportation President's Award. So this is technically an award-winning webinar series. So I'm happy to have all you guys here, and of course, got to thank a lot of the panelists that we've had, and of course that we have today, and also the future panelists. And please let us know if you're interested in being on a panel. Just let us know, let Rick know, and everyone else, of course. But when I get started, make sure you guys all know these are being recorded. It's off our website for best practices. And like I said, I feel like it's recording. I keep saying the same thing over and over again. But we have so many. If you want to go back like a year ago, what we're saying, it's interesting how things have changed. Hopefully things remain the way we're going. And obviously I'm very optimistic. Now I'd like to introduce NYAPT Executive Director, Dave Christopher. Dave, thank you for your leadership and thank you for everything you're doing for the organization.
Well, thank you, Tony, and certainly I appreciate that we partnered up into the new fiscal year, if you will, to continue these webinars. They are award-winning. I mean, I'll tell you, people really the feedback I get is really positive in terms of the topics we've had and the numbers of people who participated and attended. So I say let's keep it going. Certainly, you and your staff are as well deserved for stepping up and coming up with this idea, because really, that's where it came from. We're just jumping on board with you, and I think it's a great forum for all of us. So, so today's topic, difficult topic, bus driver shortage. It's hitting everybody, and we've got three panelists here today who, have got some good ideas and some thoughts to share. And I'd like to introduce them. First, Matt Helmbold from the Gates-Chili School District, a large school district out in the Rochester area. Joe Cervone from the Sachem School District, another large school district on Long Island. And last but not least, Jerry Keenan, who's the Assistant Director at Gilderman Schools, which is a large school district in the capital region. So I'd like to welcome all three of those individuals to the panel. I'm sure you'll get a lot of information out of them as we go through this discussion. So let's start. You all could turn your cameras on and unmute yourself. We can begin the discussion.
Thanks so much. Thanks, David. Good to see you, Jerry, Joseph, and Matt. So glad you guys are with us and really to share your own stories. One of the things that Matt, do I see you? Are you on, Matt?
Is it working?
I'm not seeing you. I'm hearing you. So if you can maybe turn your camera on. And we'll get started. So one of the things that I wanted just to get to kind of set the table a little bit is if each of you could just describe your role, maybe how long you've been at your district, a little bit about your career, and then also about your district. If you can kind of give me a sense of just how large it is, maybe how many runs you do or how many students you're transporting, something that kind of gives us a sense of your operation. I'm just going to start with Jerry, go to Joe, and then Matt.
Okay, I'm Jerry Keenan. I'm Assistant Supervisor here in Guilderland. I have been here 11 months. I transferred here from Capital Region BOCES, which before that I was with the East Greenbush School District for about 10 years as a driver. Our district we have about 5,400 kids in our routing system, students, and this year coming up, I am currently at 61 runs. But unfortunately, one of my contractors that was servicing 14 runs was not able to renew their contract. So I may be pushing closer to 70 unless I can get, I have a second bid out. So I'm somewhere between 60 and 70 runs.
Okay, thanks so much, Jerry. And by the way, don't let his cool demeanor fool you. He's got a lot going on, and we're going to get into that a little bit too, Jerry. I just want to thank you for joining us today. Joseph, Joe.
Yes, my name is Joe Cervone. I'm with Sachem now 3 years, Transportation Supervisor. Prior to that, I was with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for a year, and then I was with a private contractor for 9 years. Took care of like 400, 500 buses over 3 different yards and different things. And Sachem is like 24 square miles, 11,000 students, and I have 225 runs. I have 35 of my own drivers, and then the rest is a contractor. And so that's my story.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little bit during our dry run the other day about stealing drivers. We're going to get to some of your tips on that.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's what happens with districts. We don't train.
Thanks so much, Joe. And Matt, I don't think we have you on camera. We're just going to move forward and just hear your wisdom and not be sidetracked by your great looks. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and your district.
I'm the director here at Gates-Chili School District. I've been here not as a director the whole time, but I've been here for 16 years. We have roughly 66 to 70 routes that we have every year. We do all our in-house transportation for special needs and regular ed. Transport around 4,500 students.
Great. Thanks so much, Matt. And one thing, Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, because obviously you have the transportation supervisor background and then your role at NYAPT. So why don't you just share a little bit about yourself as well?
Well, thanks, Rick. I'm a retired transportation director from a large school district here in the Albany area. Worked in small school districts before that, city school district before that. Retired in 2014, held a series of jobs, and ended up here at NYAPT executive director, which I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to do. My role here is to, run this organization, support school districts and their members. Right now we're, really focusing on this driver shortage issue. We convened a task force, if you will, to look at the issue, to come up with some thoughts on way to address it, either, through advocacy, best practices, those kinds of things. And we're also partnering with a local PhD student who's doing a massive study of school bus drivers to find out why they become school bus drivers and what brings them back to the job after, after the COVID situation hopefully is under control. So we're trying to, give out information to help school districts recruit and retain drivers, and doing the best we can in terms of that task, because that's really the major concern of our group. Just if I could just share with you a survey we just completed with our members. We had over 150 responses, and 78% of those responses said, the school district responded, said that we will not be able to hire enough drivers to fill all of our regular routes for September. That's 78% of those responses. And the 79% have said the shortage is moderate to severe. It's certainly something that they're focused on and very concerned about. So hopefully today we'll have some ideas that'll come out and help some people.
I definitely think so. Thanks so much. And I'm actually, maybe we bring on that PhD student in a future webinar, as long as they can not use terms that are way over my head.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think he would be willing to do a webinar with us once the data is, collected up and, analyzed. He's been more than forthcoming in terms of working with us on that project.
there's a recent story in Education Week with the headline, bus driver shortages worsening for many districts as schools reopen. And the story says that actually more than half of school districts with 25,000 to 100,000 students said they believe it could take 3 months or more to resume normal transportation operations. And then there were just so many different things that everybody was trying to solve this issue. So we're going to get to some of these ideas. I know you guys had some innovative ideas as well. I want to start with Matt first, because I know, Matt, you're on a little bit of a time crunch. Want to hear a little bit about the innovative approach you're taking to solve the transportation issue in the Rochester area.
So yeah, what we done in the Rochester area is tried to work on changing the perception of a driver, more of a long-term goal. We partnered with almost all our local districts and put money together and created with a company a long video and then a short video that we could run on our local TV. And we started running a 3-week campaign of it. We're going to run another 2 to 3, 4-week campaign near the end of the summer, and hopefully just keep running it to help build the perception of what a great job it is. We did air it 3 weeks. We do have people that have seen it. I don't want to act like it's opened up floodgates or anything like that. Our goal is to just keep running it and keep hoping that it works.
So you're getting some responses though. So really any response is a positive at this point.
Yeah, so any response is positive. It's nice that people are seeing it. They're, telling their neighbors. A neighbor will come up to one of our drivers, "Hey, I saw that is what you guys do." It's just getting the conversations going. The goal is to start changing the perception. I live in a town that is short drivers. I work in a different one. The town I live in, I'll mention it to people, and I don't want to do that. I'm like, why not? And you just get the conversation going, trying to show them how great it really is. No one leaves the job saying it wasn't rewarding. They all think it's a great job when they leave.
That's true. There are some people, that I've seen profiles on who their entire career was bus driving. And we have one person, I can't remember her name now. And now I don't think she's in New York, but that was like, Katrina Falk, it might have been. That was like that was her goal, was to become when she was a little girl, she wanted to be a school bus driver. Now she's a transportation supervisor as well, but I think she still gets her time behind the wheel. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could just jump in here to Matt's point, I think he's hit on an important thing. 3 years ago, NYAPT, New York School Boards, and NYAPT did a study, very thorough study, and the study is found on our website if anybody's interested in looking at it. And it essentially, they looked at the public perception of a school bus driver, and they also looked at the school bus driver's perception of their job. And to Matt's point, many school bus drivers love their job. They retire and they say, "Hey, this is the best job I've ever had. I love it. I've got lots of freedom. The money's not too bad. I like the kids. I like the sports trips." And yet when you survey the public says, "Oh, I would never do that because it's too much responsibility. There's not enough, I there's not enough money. There's reliability. So, there's a disconnect there between what the public perceives of the job and what's real in terms of what the driver perception is. And
Dave,
I found that all through my career too. When drivers retired, they said, "Hey, it's the best job I ever had."
Dave, you just made me think of something, which is scary, that after today's webinar, so this will be recorded, as Tony mentioned, and it'll be on our website, transfinder.com, tomorrow. And maybe this webinar itself could be a recruiting tool for you as well. So somebody comes, some people that you want to blast out and let them know that you have any driver openings that you have. Maybe this webinar would help to demystify what the job is all about and that it is a fun job. So just a thought, and maybe we can circle back on that later. Jerry, I keep telling everybody, don't let people be fooled by your calm demeanor. You got a lot of going on in Guilderland. Tell us about your situation right now. You've been on a job less than a year at Guilderland, right? You're coming on your 1 year anniversary, I think in August you mentioned. Tell us where you stand, where you sit today.
Well, I'll start at the top. My director, Danielle, she retired. She stayed on as a contractor, but she's gone. My new director will start next week. And in the midst of that, my fleet manager retired. My 19A trainer resigned to take a director's position in another district. I'm 2 mechanics down, and I'm about 11 drivers short, minus what just happened with the contract not being renewed. So it's it's not a great situation, but we're trying our hardest to plug our way through this. And we're trying to get inventive on different means of bringing drivers in, and we're working on looking at everything from different angles at this point.
And when you're done with today's webinar, you have a plan to head out of the office to do something. What are you going to do?
I am going to make a cold call stop with a bid packet. I have right now I put 30 out of district schools out to bid in hopes that I can get some help from any contractors willing to help us. And there's one contractor that I've noticed has some buses local, and I'm not sure if they received the bid, so I want to make sure they have it. And I'm going to go over and introduce myself and present them with a bid packet. And like I said, I'm doing everything I possibly can to get the runs filled for this coming school year. I've got, if you want, I can start into how I've changed my hiring process.
Well, why don't we just go? Let's keep it going. Yeah, go ahead. And then Joe, I haven't forgotten you, Joe and Matt. We'll get back to you, but go ahead, Jerry. Tell us a little bit about what you've done that's different.
July 1st, we, as everybody knows, July 1st is our new fiscal year. So we got, I had an email come out from HR about, substitute pay rates and whatnot. And so Danielle and I worked and talked together, and we decided to take a different approach, because in this day and age, not many people can come to work and not have an income. Free training was great. We'll give you our time, you give yours. It's not working anymore in the industry. People can't come to work for free. So our district had a $1,250 incentive for any driver that's, is here for 90 working days, not calendar days, but working days. They would receive a $1,250 incentive. So now we have broken the incentive. 500 becomes the incentive, and we will pay you up to $750 at $15 an hour for your time of training. That has actually been a good choice for us. Because within the last month, I have hired 4 drivers that are in training. I'm keeping my fingers crossed they will get their licenses prior to September. But there's, every person learns at a different rate. But that has made it more appealing. I've lost several applicants to, well, I hate to even say this, I don't know, but the last question usually asked is, do you do drug testing? Yes, we're still under federal mandate, so we are doing drug testing, and then that phone call usually ends pretty abruptly. So I'm doing whatever I can. I have signs all over.
That's a good thing, right? That's actually a good thing that ends the conversation, because you don't really want that person driving.
Once they pose the question, I'm done. Yeah. But yeah, so I have signs all over town, and I have the boss, just like he said, and I'm doing word of mouth. anybody I could stop and talk to. Many of you know me. I could probably talk to a wall if I had to. You know, and so I'm just doing everything possible, thinking outside the box on how we can get people in. But this page,
How about being a Walmart greeter with a card? You know.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Jerry. Hey, Joe. So set the table for us a little bit where you guys are at, and what you're in a pretty good spot right now.
Well, I think I'm in a better place than most people are. So in the 3 years that I've been here, I actually had to assemble a team, you know, so I've hired a couple of mechanics. So I have a phenomenal mechanic. I was able to hire 2 clerks that are like awesome. And my assistant is great. She's been here. So that takes the burden off of me with worrying about the daily operations, and I can look into other areas. And so I get to interact with my drivers a lot, and they all love being here. You know, I'm a people person, and I talk to them personally, and and so I get all my drivers from them. They go to their friends and bring them to my district. Unfortunately, I have to steal them from somebody else. But we do not train, and that's just. But I don't solicit. I never have to solicit. As soon as somebody retires, our driver will notify their friends, and we get them. But in the same respect, I give a lot of perks to my drivers. So here's one where I gave them a monitor basic class last year, figuring maybe somehow we can get them some extra work. And my contractor was short monitors this summer, so my people have gone over to work for them for the summer. So they're getting paid. Contractor got some extra people for the, So you got to think outside the box, But I believe the people love working here. We have a great environment here, and that's what attracts people to come here.
That's great. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, the culture. And I got to tell you, Dave, one thing that I've noticed with all the webinars we've done, all the people that we featured, they all have these like winning cultures, and so I just want to share with you guys when we're going to get to the culture thing in a moment. So be thinking about what it is that makes your culture one that people want to work for, because if Tony always talks about this, if you get one nugget from the webinar, just one idea, one concept, whatever, it was worth the time, right? That you can try to implement right away. So I do want to get back to you and Joe about that as well. Matt, tell us a little bit about you talked about the ad you're doing, but what else are you, how many drivers are you down right now? And what are you going to do if, come opening day, if you don't have everybody you need in place? What's your approach?
So we're currently 11 drivers down. It seems like this year for us, every time I get one, I lose one. So we've kind of stayed right there all year. I'll feel good that we got 2 in training. They'll get their license, and then 2 leave. So we're doing okay. The start of school, we're going to have to change things around. Transportation, obviously, we all know runs off programs. So they're going to have to eliminate certain programs because I'm not going to be able to do them. But we'll make it work. Now,
will you send a message? Would that go out to the district so people actually know, hey, this is going to be the impact because of the lack of drivers? Would that be something that you actually let?
Yeah, that's all communicated. It's communicated with our school boards, communicated through meetings, communicated to the public. The runs will be like late afternoon runs, that type of thing, where maybe we'll have to just change the time. The video there, like I said, with the perception, we really tried to build on everything that everyone's talking about. One of the ladies on the video is talking about how the vehicle was, she thought it was too big, but it's more like driving a truck. Another one is someone that's retired. And then another one is a gentleman that shows how it's great to fit his landscaping business around. So we're trying to like really show all the avenues to get people to come in. You mentioned culture. And the phone call there, I believe it was Jared said, and then we try to get everyone in the door. We have a community garden here in our compound that drivers take care of. We have
that's a cool one. That's a new one.
Yeah, so we created. We have all this land, and we're a district, so we have tractors. And one year we tilled up a grassy field and planted some stuff, and it kind of took off. So between their runs, they go out and pick weeds and pick rocks and I'll buy all the seed in the beginning of the year, and for $120 or whatever it is for seed and plants, they get, and it's a 60 by 90 garden now at this point, but it just keeps going.
And it's kind of like almost like a built-in team building kind of thing in a way, right?
I love it. So whenever we get a new recruit in, our trainers or whoever, anyone that's looking to come here, we kind of walk them around, show them our fleet. We take a lot of pride in our buses. We have, I think, an exceptional fleet. You know, that's their office. You know, you're not going to see duct tape on my chair, so why would I have a crappy bus out there for them? So we have great buses, and we walk around and show them what we're all about.
I think we got a winning idea already, by the way. I was going to say.
Rick, if I could just jump onto that, and one of the reasons I wanted Matt on this webinar, you know, not only because of, you know, what they've done in the Rochester area with the video, but prior to COVID, Matt, I remember you telling me several times that you didn't have a driver shortage when a lot of districts did, and it was because of the culture. You know, you spoke about the fact that you keep your bus fleet up, you have seat belts in your buses, you get all the modern technology that you need on the buses to keep your drivers happy. And, you know, certainly COVID hurt a lot of districts as far as driver retention, but you were doing some things pre-COVID to keep a great culture in your organization so that people came to work there.
That's great. I have a few questions coming in. I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, so back with, like you mentioned with David, the buses and the seat belts, I know that's a hot topic. However, when you get a neighbor or someone comes up to one of my drivers, I could never manage those middle school kids. Well, actually, they just sit down and wear their belt, you know, and then that takes them by surprise. Oh, really? It's not what, you know, so you change the perception.
That's great. I have a few questions I want to reiterate. You know, this is a two-way conversation, so please, anybody who has a question, feel free to pop it in, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Bill and Dexler, by the way, former panelist. The article that I referenced, I actually just posted it on Facebook, so you can find it at facebook.com/Transfinder, the story about the driver shortage in Education Week. Jenny asked about going back to the, you know, Joe, you mentioned about a referral. You know, your drivers actually are the ones that kind of do some of the recruiting. I want to throw this out to all three of you, and Dave, feel free to jump in as well. Do you guys have a referral bonus, like an incentive that way? I'll start with Joe and go to Jerry, and then Matt, if you got something, and Dave, feel free to jump in as well.
No, we do not have a referral bonus, but we have a brand new fleet. I'll be buying the last 6 buses next year, and everything will have been replaced over the last 6 years. Seat belts, AC, you know, new parking lot. So those are the perks that they get.
Got it. Very good.
We do not have a sign-on bonus or any kind.
You don't need it. It seems like what you don't. Why do it if you don't need it yet? Okay, Jerry, how about you?
Yes, the driver contract here, it's $125 or $150 bonus for the referrals that come in from the drivers. So once I hire them and put them on the roster, you know, I send it over to, you know, I notate in their file during training, and then I send it over to accounts payable, and the driver gets the incentive.
Great.
The new driver, I mean, the existing driver gets the $125, $150 bonus.
Very good. Matthew, how about you?
Our district has a $100 incentive for all positions, teacher aides, bus drivers, everybody.
Super, super. And Dave, did you aware of any just on statewide or just your own personal experience as a
yeah, there's several districts are trying that out, more so now because of obviously the shortage, and with mixed results. You know, I've heard of some that find it to be a very effective tool, and others that doesn't seem to be getting legs. But you know, I think you have to try anything you can. If you look in the newspapers, trucking companies, private company, bus companies, a lot of them are doing these big incentives. So you know, it's worth a try, obviously, if you get some traction with it.
Very good. Before we go, and got a few more questions. We got a lot of questions coming in, which is great. So I'm going to actually change gears and go to the questions. Before we do, though, we do want to get a feel for where our attendees are at right now in the driver shortage situation. So Bridget, do you mind bringing up the poll question we have for our attendees? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most severe, has the driver shortage severely impacted your transportation operation? So 1 means not too much, And then 5 is like, yeah, it's definitely hit us hard. So you could take a couple of seconds on that. And while our attendees are filling out that poll, I want to throw out a couple of questions here. Doug asked, do you know of some districts that are switching to double, triple, or even quadruple tier bus programs to save on drivers? And I'll just open it up to, well, to all of you guys. Anybody aware of that approach?
Well, I do have 3 tiers.
Who's this?
We've always had 3 tiers.
Okay.
I have three tier runs here in Gilderland, but if you're talking about a double tier per school, no, I can't send a bus back out for the same school. I have 45 minutes between bell times for each of this coming year. So my buses, and we're, a 60 square mile radius. I just don't have the time to double up a tier.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have enough bell time between bell time to double up either.
Okay. All right.
Rick, I've got to weigh in on that because I had some conversations with people on this, and I know there's several school districts that may be looking at this, but I have to tell you, I have a hard time in my mind believing that a school district would create a different bell schedule for bus transportation. I believe superintendents, educators are going to create the bell schedule that best suits the education of kids. And that may be, a bell schedule that also accommodates school busing. But I don't see that as a silver bullet to solve this, because I think superintendents are going to, again, create the schedule that's in the best interest of kids' education. So, I'm sure there's some out there that are adjusting things to accommodate busing, but I'd like to know that if they are, because I just don't see that.
So
I'd like
please,
to come in
if
on
you're
that.
on this, please, I'd love to, if you have a response to Dave, I'd love to see it in our, who else was speaking?
I just wanted to say we actually changed. Here's another little hiccup, or speed bump in my way. We changed our bell times this year, so it's been a lot of creative rerouting, where we're doing elementary school first, high school second, and middle school third, based on the study that high schoolers do better educationally with more sleep. Yeah. So our high schoolers will not be going in now until 8:20.
So does that make your routing scheme easier to accommodate, Jerry, or not as easy?
No, especially with my out of districts and my VOTEX and PTEX and MTEX, and because all those programs will still start at 8. So that first morning program, I have to build routing. I'm actually doing those personally. I build routing to do door-to-door pickup, and then those buses have to take them directly to their school. Whereas historically, you pick them up on their high school run, bring them to the high school, and put them on a transfer bus, and off they go, and they still make their bell times. But with my high school going in late, all of my parochials and all of my out of districts, everything's starting before. So we're getting very creative on what we're doing.
Dave, Joshua Collins, I think in response to your note, said transportation drives bell schedules. That's his experience.
That's an opinion.
Yep, no, absolutely. Don't want to create any battles here.
No. I more than welcome to hear that. I know in my experience, it's always been what's in the best interest of kids. Certainly, you have to weigh the school transportation piece of it, because it's important, right, to get the kids to school. They won't have education unless they get to school. But to Jerry's point, there's an example of a schedule that's being created that's very difficult to accommodate transportation-wise, but's in the best interest of kids and their education. And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that that's what I see. And
no, it's good. Bridget, can you give us the poll result? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I do work for a school district that puts our students first. We're very student focused here.
Absolutely.
I had a question. Is anybody thinking of changing their walker distance policy? I mean, we're a half mile now. We're at a half mile. Anybody that's a half a mile or more gets a bus.
I would tell you, Joe, that I have heard that from school districts that they're looking at walk policies because of
Yeah, bus
you know,
shortage.
the ability of not being able to bus kids, which certainly worries us in the industry, right? Because we know that kids are safest on the buses to and from school. So, you know, we want to try to keep them on the buses because that's the best place for them. I will tell you, there's bills in our state legislature in New York to increase busing in dangerous areas like, you know, inner cities that have, you know, vacant housing and crime areas that, so that's an example of, you know, the other side of the coin where they're.
I mean, I'm not in favor of it. I was just asking if anybody.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. Yeah. I've heard that, Joe, yes.
Couple quick things. Let me go back to a couple quick things. One is Nancy and Kristen both weighed in on the bell times as well. Nancy mentions we're governed by the teacher contract. Ran into this issue in the past school year where we could have bell times different time of 45, as much as 45 minutes. That worked, but now going back to one tier, I think it will be a struggle with our driver shortage, but our district will be busy making it work. Kristen mentions in our district, the teachers' contracts dictate the bell times. Going to the 1 mile walk distance, Ann says we've always had a 1 mile walk distance. And Laura mentions last year we implemented a walk policy of 1 mile for our middle school students. It affects about 45 students. I got a couple questions I want to get to. Before I do, though, I do want to get those poll results. So, Bridget, and then I'll go to you, Jerry. I saw you had your hand up. Go ahead, Bridget. Walk us through this.
Okay, so of those who weighed in, only 4% rated a 1, so they have not been too severely impacted by the driver shortage. 13% rated a 2, 23% a 3, 34% a 4, and 24% a 5 being severely impacted by the driver shortage.
So 58% basically say it's basically severe, either the most severe or significantly. So that tells you why we have such a good turnout for today's webinar, besides the fact that we have stellar panelists. Jerry, you were going to say something.
Just going back to that walking distance, I welcome anybody to visit our Board of Education policies. I lucked out, I came into the district, this was already in place since 2015 by our Board of Education, but if you pull up our board policy 8410-R, it actually states by grade level the amount of distance they can walk. So we have anything from a quarter mile, we have quarter mile, half mile, and 1 mile, based on, actually, K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So when I get complaints about bus stops, I actually refer to the parents right back to our board policy.
Smart, very smart.
So I welcome maybe to look that up, and if you want to see the differences of what we're doing here.
So Bill Andexler, again, past panelist, he's out in Ohio. So he says in Ohio, many districts are going to the state minimum, which is no busing for 9th through 12th graders and a 2 mile walk zone. And what else? And Kenneth mentions that they have a half, so going to the other side, a half mile walk distance for 1st through 6th grade and a 1 mile for 7th and 8th and a 2 mile for those poor high school kids, let them walk uphill both ways. So.
And that's the advocacy piece. I think that's important, where we get the word out that we have to fix this thing, because we don't want school districts to have to force kids to walk to school or find other ways to school because we don't have enough school bus drivers.
So going to the, thank you. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Dave.
No, go ahead.
I want to go back to the pay, because James asked a question about pay rates, and he says, what is the pay rate and advantage, an average hours between Jerry, Joe, and Matt, and how do you compare it to your local districts, in your regions and or the minimum wage? Can you give those?
Well, our drivers get 6 hours, and they're in the upper 25 bucks an hour.
$25 an hour. Okay, good.
Yep.
Jerry?
Upper 25.
Okay, great.
We just changed our, obviously the $15 an hour for training. We upped our substitute rate to $20 an hour, and new drivers that come on are at $21.50. If after doing a market analysis myself and pulling up different contracts and placing calls to different schools, I feel that the $21.50 is pretty adequate for the Capital District area. And then next year their contract actually raises our minimum to $23 an hour. And our bus runs are geared at they're guaranteed. We don't do quarter hours here; they do full hours. So our bus runs are 6, 7, or 8 hours.
Okay, great, thank you. And Matt?
I'll answer this, and then unfortunately I do have to go, but thank you for asking me to be on this. We are at $17.50 an hour, which is pretty good for our area, even for students and our contractors in the area that don't have health benefits that pay much more, still are in the shortage. So for us, once again, I keep being the dead horse, but we're just trying to change that perception, because if they want to be here and they like it, they're not arguing over $1 here or there. They want to enjoy coming to work.
Very good. Thanks. And thanks for joining us, Matt. And all the best to you in the beginning of the school year here. Nancy, who is in New Hampshire, and I want to highlight something else about this, Dave. This is such a useful webinar series that we've created. It really has gone coast to coast. I don't know all the states that that are on today, but we do get a lot of people from just outside of New York as well. Nancy mentions that their staff gets anywhere from $17 to $22, I believe that is an hour, but the great medical benefits as well as a 403B savings plan as well. So is that something that you guys offer as well? And are there other things that you're looking to add? And I know, Dave, I wanted to have you also talk about some of the things that you're lobbying for in terms of paying for certifications and other types of incentives as well. But anybody have 403 savings or medical?
Well, we have medical and we have a savings. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Our drivers fall. Yes, we have they get a full benefit package, including dental and vision, as well as we are part of the New York State retirement program because we're a municipality.
Yeah. Same with my people.
Okay. Well, I got a really long line here. I don't know what exactly. I haven't read it all yet. But one mentions also they have an 8-hour bus driver utility position. So if they are not driving, they can go help on the grounds, custodial, or maintenance. That was from James. Thank you for that. And so you guys want to weigh in on that. Nancy also mentioned that they have a holiday pay as well, 12 hours a year, 15 sick days. Dave, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you're lobbying for to help reduce, the cost for people who want to enter this field.
Yeah, last year we had a plank in our legislative agenda that asked for a tax deduction for a tax benefit for drivers, similar to what educators get. Not a lot of money, but it's a start. And there's a certain amount of money that some people have to put down to get their permit and to start the process. So we felt that maybe that was one way that we could try to offset that a little bit to make it a little easier for people to get into the business. To Jerry's point, people come into the school bus driving business and some of them have no money. You can't expect them to train for 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer, without money coming in. So I think Jerry's program is great in terms of trying to get money in their pocket while they're training. And to some of the audience's comments, the fact that they're working in other kinds of jobs in the school district to earn additional hours, maybe as an attendant or a groundskeeper or whatever, is real important because it gets the money coming in. So I think that's one positive way to get people in the door to, what other job that you go to work for that you may have to wait 2 months to get a check. It doesn't happen, right? So you wouldn't expect that to be something you'd want to do in the school bus industry either.
Yes, I see the two issues that I see, which is not going to help the driver shortage, is the federalizing of the driver training is making it harder to get people. And the people that we currently have, we're asking them to do more and more. Attendance, seating charts, masks, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. It's not worth it. So those two issues do not help the driver shortage.
Yeah, I have a quote here from one of our NYAPT officers who runs a very exceptional program in Western New York. And I won't give you the name, but I'll tell you the last sentence. With the new federal road test and entry-level driver training requirements, we are not an appealing industry in a diminishing willing to work workforce. And when I read that, I thought, she kind of hit something there. We have to find a way to make this industry appealing, to talk about, the high points, the advantages, to Matt's point, what he's doing in terms of trying to explain the culture in his operation, so people look at this and say, hey, I might give this a try, because entry-level driver training, all the training requirements, responsibility is a big lift, but it's doable. It's certainly doable for people.
I'd like to take the approach that, we are the safest drivers on the road. And this is the training that we are providing you to be that safest driver on the road. I'm trying to look at ELDT as it's being like, selling it as the positive, across to our new trainees that, this is going to be wonderful. You're going to be the safest drivers.
Yeah. In the reality, in New York, there's not a lot of additional training that's going to happen with entry-level driver training that we haven't already done for years. There's going to be additional work on Jerry and Joe and his trainers to register as a training entity and document and keep track of their training histories for each driver. But in terms of the actual training for our bus drivers, we do exceptional training here in New York. Always have. Very regulated business. So that's not a huge lift, but it's a huge lift on the management staff, training staff to comply.
Yes, correct.
So I want to read a lot. Joe wrote a very thoughtful note in here, but I want to get to one nugget that came out of this. I think it's not a question, it's just a sentence. But he says, we need to compare the amount of money a person can make in 10 hours, and basically he said we need to treat them, we need to pay them a living wage to make if you really want to retain a driver on staff. And so I just want to throw that out there so Joe's voice is in here. So I wanted to say two other quick things. One is, I was just thinking, I want to get to the culture question. So be thinking about that because I'm going there next. But the other thing is, when I hear from drivers and some of the things that I read with like drivers who retire, is the kids, and how much they get out of their experience with the kids. I know that it's a challenging job for sure. And I was not the best kid on my hour-and-a-half bus ride each way in the Gilman School District, by the way, Jerry. I didn't mention that. I had an hour-and-a-half bus ride because I went to a private school. So I was the first kid on in the morning and the last kid off in the afternoon. And Dave never cries for me, never gives me any sympathy. But I was not the best kid on the bus. I will honestly admit that. But we hear from drivers who talk about giving, just having an impact in kids' lives. And then the notes that they get from kids, especially some of the little kids, and the gifts and the relationships and stuff. And they really do feel like they're fulfilling a calling. It's more than, and Jerry, you were, I believe, a head bus driver at another district, right? It was in Niskayuna?
Yeah, I was a head bus driver for BOCES, but I was placed at Niskayuna School District, and and I'll tell you, I love being a bus driver. This is my second career. My kids, as a bus driver, called me Disco Man. I had a great time with the kids. To me, I thought this would be a part-time job that I did when I moved back to New York until my daughter graduated high school, and 10 years later, here I am sitting in one of the supervisory roles of a large district. I fell in love with it.
That's great. Good stuff.
So I still have a note that a kid gave me my very first year of driving that says, when I grow up, I want to be a bus driver just like you. I still have the note.
That's a keeper.
Yeah.
That's a keeper. So does that mean you play disco music on your bus, Jerry, when you were driving?
For the elementary kids, idle hands get you in trouble. So when I got to the elementary school in the morning, that 5 minutes or 7 minutes, I connected my phone, my aux cord to my phone, and we were doing the Macarena, chicken dance, whatever I could do to keep these kids busy. Yep, just to, I have parents, I have cards from kids that would say, my kid had the opportunity to, leave with me after a parent conference or whatever, and they got upset and I had to leave them at school because they wanted to ride the bus home. So I really went above and beyond to try to make these kids have the best experience possible because I loved it. It wasn't even like a job. I just loved what I was doing.
That's good. That's good. James mentions a thought that he had. Should there be an aide on the bus if the number of students exceeds the district's classroom size to help, with student, management? That was one question. Do you guys have any issues, any policies regarding that?
Well, there's an aid shortage, just like there's a driver shortage. So
Okay, all right.
I actually employ, on the buses that I need to mandated to have an aide or an attendant. But I have 3 floating aides. So if I get any reports back from one of my large mainstream buses that generally does not have an aide on it, we can throw an aide on for a few days and help get that situation under control. Visit we all have this means to watch tapes and whatnot, and we can when the driver needs help, we give them some help if they request it.
Okay. And
Rick,
then,
to that point, we do have last year we had also a legislative plank to allow for state aid for monitors on buses. In New York, you can get state aid on an attendant that's mandated by the student's IEP, but not monitors. So we asked for consideration for state aid for monitors. Not a mandate for monitors because, quite honestly, some bus drivers don't need monitors. They do a great job on their own, and we don't need monitors on certain runs. But to Jerry's point, where it's needed, we want to be able to put them on and get aid for it because in some cases they're necessary, and we feel that may help the driver shortage issue because some people are not comfortable driving a bus and monitoring 50, 60 kids.
James asked a question about, do you think it would help the drivers if they were in the same union as the teachers union? Is that a thought that's come up at all?
No, my drivers
my drivers are in a union. It's not the same as the teachers union, but if you're in a union, I think you're okay no matter what union, right?
Okay. And then let's get to the culture question. Jerry, we talked about this yesterday, and you're rebuilding it, and I'm so right now. So tell me about your approach. How do you? And Joe, please jump in, and Dave, about how do you? Because Joe, you've been in your spot again. How long? How many years?
3 years. 3 years.
So how do you build that culture if there's issues that need to be addressed?
Again, I got to know each driver personally. I talk to them regularly. I really try to know them. And again, I'm fortunate that I have good staff around me, which allows me to have free time to meet with the drivers regularly. I have an open door policy. They come in, give them a pat on the back every day that I possibly can for whatever it may be, And you just got to keep them motivated and happy. I did have 3 drivers with perfect attendance this year during a COVID. They did not even have to mandatory quarantine, and I thought that was pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
I had perfect attendance during the pandemic.
And we even talked about that and how some of the ones that were required you might have had a higher number if it wasn't for the fact that there was this required quarantine.
They had to quarantine, not that they just had to quarantine. So.
Very good.
But you have to leave in a positive environment, and people are happy and they like to come to work.
That's great. Jerry, what are you doing to build that new improved culture?
Our culture is, it's you can't change something overnight, and I'm working really diligent to try to create this, what I call a high performance culture. At the same time, reiterating it to be, a positive experience for all. You know, my personality is, you know, I like to laugh and have a great time. And one of the things I try to do, like Joe does, is, you know, when it's check-in time in the afternoon or morning or, you know, whatever, just be out there as the drivers are checking in. I work a later shift as a supervisor. I work till 6 o'clock every night in the school year. So I'm here as they come in, and I try to make myself out there with them, talk to them. My door is open. They can come in anytime they need to talk to with me. I have built several relationships, you know, and building that trust with them, you know, especially with, you know, the fleet manager. You know, it's odd that I'm the senior person in the department in only 11 months, but we've lost, you know, the trainer, we've lost, you know, my director and the fleet supervisor, my other 3 people in management here. And, you know, so there's been a lot of change for them. So we have to, you know, let them know they're safe and we're here for them. And that's what I try to do with them. I try to go out there and just reiterate and I talk to them like I see everything from a bus driver's eyes, only because that's my passion. So
that's great. That's great. We are getting ready to wrap up. We're closing in on that. One of the things I like to do is always have one takeaway. We have, you know, we've kind of covered a lot of content. But Dave, let me have you real quickly, because, you know, you were in that role too. So I'm sorry, before we do that, Dave, what did you do to build your culture?
Well, I think I've always thought that, you know, you have to conduct yourself professionally. You have to understand you're in the people business. We're not in the yellow bus business. We're in the people business, where, you know, it's a business of taking care of our staff and the kids that we're in the communities we're tasked to support by transporting kids to and from school safely. You know, the fact that we know how to run school buses and, you know, deliver safety messages and training, and, you know, that's part of it. But certainly and I think Jerry and Joe are hitting on this. It's a people business, and the sooner we understand that, I think the more successful we will be in terms of recruiting and retaining drivers, because it's all about the culture. If you read any of the management business books, money's good, right? We all need money. But the number one reason people come to a job or stay with a job is because of the culture. Money is, I think, 2 or 3. So it's just, that's something I think we always need to keep in the forefront.
And you're spending a majority of your waking hours at work. You know,
Sure.
You think about what you
life.
You feel like you're making a difference. I mean, you get a chance to make a difference with hundreds of people a day. Really.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Gary, that experience of kids having fun on your bus. I had great bus drivers and I had some not so good bus drivers. And part of it probably was because I was a pesky kid. But man, the ones that were great, I mean, you know, you see little kids, then you see them sometimes hopping along the street, hopping on the bus, and they're happy. The driver had a role to play in that. You know, Nancy writes a note in the message field here that she still misses. She said she's been a dispatcher now for 12 years. She still misses her role as a driver, and she says that those kids still miss her too. She got a little smiley face there. So I'm going to close out with one takeaway. There's a lot of takeaways, and again, this is recorded, and if you think this is valuable to use as part of your recruitment tool, I would say have at it. I think you guys gave a wealth of warts and all, and that's okay. You didn't sugarcoat things. This is a real discussion, and I think it's okay for people to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Tony always likes to say. So, but there's a lot of takeaways, but if you guys could sum up one that you would like, if, you know, I heard this, now I'm going to go back and talk to my superintendent or go and talk to a staff person or maybe someone I want to recruit for this job, whatever it may be, will give me one takeaway. I'm going to start with you, Joe, Jerry, close it out with you, Dave, and then I'll just wrap it up.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to panelist. I hope everybody got something out of what I had to say. But I'm going to take back the incentive programs that you guys have put together through your district and see if I can get them implemented in my district, you know. But a positive environment will help you all.
Yeah,
that's very good. Very true. True words. Jerry.
Yeah, I would say that positivity. You know, I hope it came through with me. I mean, my energy's high and my love for this career. You know, and when I'm out there talking to people about jobs, you know, You know, I pride myself. I've actually had fathers on my bus routes say, "You roll up at my house every day happy. You know, I want to be as happy as you." And next day I show up with an application. You know,
Never waste an opportunity.
So as a bus driver, I was even a recruiter back then. So I have a few drivers in my old district that were fathers of buses that I drove, and they're like, "You're happy every single day." So, yeah, it is a great job.
Sometimes, I had a job at one newspaper, and there were sometimes I had a tough day or something going, or maybe I wasn't in a good mood or whatever going in. So in those days, instead of going in through the elevator, I'd go the back way where you had to go up 3 flights of stairs. And I would literally take 2 steps at a time and run up the stairs and try to literally put on happiness, put on it's showtime. And you can be, and I don't think that makes you a hypocrite. I think that's where I want to be. And you can direct some of that and say, I'm just going to put on some happiness today. Not every day. Tony's been very open with our staff and say, not every day is a good day. Some days we have tough days, but how do you get through that? So I'm sure, Jerry, are you happy every day, or do you have to kind of make yourself happy?
This year I have to take that deep breath before I walk in the door and build that up. It was like, all right, here we go.
That's it. That's it. I love it. I love that. David, close us out.
Well, I'm very encouraged to listen to Joe and Jared because they're, new managers in difficult situations, and they're very positive, and they've got great ideas, and it's just great to see this because I think, the future of this industry is bright with folks like you two at the helm. And Jerry, I think you should put your superintendent on this video or have him watch this because you won't be an assistant long. I'll tell you that with the way you're going. So I'm just going to close out. I've changed my final words here because you guys psyched me up a little bit. When I worked at my last school district, I used to open my window every morning to listen to the announcements by the middle school principal. And every day he would close out his announcements by saying, middle schoolers have a great day. It's your choice. And I think that's so true. We have a choice to make every day. We can have a great day, or we can, not have a great day. And I'd prefer to have great days. So thanks for coming on, guys. It's a great webinar.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Tony, brief
Hey,
word.
guys, a lot of good insight. I mean, I got to tell you, I love being positive. I think it's something that my name being Tony, so I've always used that word tone at the top, and it has so much meaning. It means I set the tone. I really do. People look at me, if I'm sad, if I'm nervous, they're going to be nervous. So if you're having a bad day, maybe stay home. Don't let the staff know that things are not looking good or something. Just stay home. Or when you get to the office, be positive. That kind of stuff is contagious. Negativity is extremely contagious. So is being positive. So I think you got to always know that people don't always come to work because they want to get paid. They want to come to work. They feel like this is love and it's a happy family. I know this industry does this all the time. That's what you guys drive with. I think, listen, I see a lot of things on Facebook that people having cookouts, they're having the drivers and the staff, they're grilling. Those are things that it's like, wow, I want to work over there. And I could see that, those are so inexpensive to do that. Just have a grill and just have some fun.
Tony, you're talking about grilling at lunchtime. You're killing it.
I know. Well, listen, it's great.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, so for me, I'd like to leave you all with a lasting impression. This shirt was a purpose, so you can all go, that bald guy with the flowered shirt. You remember me? My district's hiring. Come on by.
That's awesome. Oh, man, this guy is good. This guy's good.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Tony. I want to thank again our panelists. You guys were great. Matt, Jerry, Joseph, David, always great to talk to you.
Thank you all.
Your love for the districts in New York and really nationally comes through every time. Your leadership's been phenomenal. I want to welcome anybody who has a story to share to email mystory@transfinder.com. You might be on a white paper. You might be on a webinar. Again, these are not necessarily Transfinder clients. It's okay. We want to we call this the best practices because we're looking for the best. And so we'd want to hear your story. So please email mystory@transfinder.com. Finally, Our next webinar is going to be a little bit earlier next month because we don't want to get into crunch time as you guys are wrapping up, getting ready for that opening day of school. So it's going to be August 12th. So stay tuned for the link on the web. And until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody. Bye. Safe.